Hey guys, and welcome to my channel. My name is Larissa and this is Late Night Talks with Rissa. On here I'm going to be doing different things like just story times, talking about experiences. Sometimes I'll do like little vlogs and different things like that. I don't know. This is just like a spam page. So I'm going to be posting a lot of different things. If there's anything particular you want to see, let me know. I do have another YouTube channel. It's The Spooners, and that's more couple and family content. So if you do want to subscribe, if you like things like that, you can subscribe. I'll have it linked below and I'll have it here on the screen for you to see. So what is a VBAC? VBAC is a vaginal birth after cesarean. So that's basically when you have a successful vaginal birth after. There is something that you go through before you have that successful vaginal birth, and that's going to be the TOLAC. So it's trial of labor after a C-section. And once you successfully go through that trial of labor, then that's when the VBAC comes in place. Most times when you're going to have a VBAC, they prefer you to go into natural labor, but sometimes they're okay with doing induction, but it depends on the situation and the circumstances. Some people choose to have a C-section again because I understand you get cut open already, so they'd rather just go down that route and not even deal with vaginal because they have the scar already, so they're like, okay, might as well cut me open again. Other people would just like to try the vaginal birth, which I was one of those people. The reasons why is because, one, I felt like I really wanted to experience that experience because I didn't get to do it the first time. So I was just someone that was like, you know what, I want to give it a go. If I can do it, as long as there's nothing like medically wrong with me or the baby or any health issues, I want to go ahead and try the best I can. So the benefits of having a vaginal over another C-section, of course, is like faster recovery, surgery complications, because we all know you're getting cut 7 layers. So it's not an easy surgery. So I understand completely, like, sometimes you want a faster recovery. You don't want to be, because I was really nervous when I had to get mine done. Another thing I like about C-sections is that now you can just get that nice little bikini line scar. So it's not like the back in the days where they had to cut you, your whole stomach open. So that's kind of nice. So typically the VBAC success rate is 60 to 80%. All depends on like what your previous C-section was and why'd you have it. Because depending on what it is, sometimes they will want to do a repeated C-section. Most times if it has to do with like your health or something in particular, but usually when it's the baby, you know how each time you get pregnant, it can be a different situation for the baby. So sometimes they'll go ahead and take that chance depending on how high or low your risk is. I think they give you they do some kind of test or something to see like how, if you're like eligible for that VBAC. So a little backstory on my C-section and why I had it. So I had a like good pregnancy throughout the whole thing, and then towards the end things were happening, and I was in Iowa at the time, so I had a doctor that I feel like they weren't properly doing things, because I don't know why I had this issue. It was when I moved back to Florida and they squeezed me in because I was like 28 weeks. Wait, no, I wasn't 28 weeks. How pregnant was I? I was super pregnant, and they were like, oh, we can't take you for like a while. I think 37 weeks. But anyways, so what happened was my baby, when they had measured, the lady was like to me, I remember laying on the table and she was like to me, are you sure you're this far along? Your baby's measuring like 3 weeks behind. And I was like, what? So she was in the like 1% percentile. She was really low percentile. It was really bad. I was so scared because remember, this is my first pregnancy, so I was freaking out. And then I guess they tested this thing called Doppler flow, and they said she's not getting enough blood and oxygen to her. And I was just like, what? And I didn't know anything about this stuff. This was all brand new to me. So that didn't do me any good because that rose my blood pressure up, because I was over here worried and panicking about the whole situation. So then I saw the doctor and he was like, okay, well, we need to get you in for an induction. Like, you're gonna have to go get this induction. Mind you, I wasn't too educated on inductions because like I didn't do any research on none of that stuff. I was over here thinking, my pregnancy is fine, like, because everything was going fine. I never had any issues throughout. So I wasn't thinking, oh, you live and you learn. I wasn't thinking, oh, this is gonna happen, that can happen. I didn't look into inductions, nothing. I was just looking into like basic things and all that stuff like that. And I remember him telling me that, and I was crying, bawling, and yeah, that didn't help my blood pressure. But then he was like, go home, pack what you need to pack. I mean, they never made it seem like it was super urgent, so that was good because that would make you worry even more. But I packed my stuff. Thank God my husband and I had everything prepped for the baby because we were so last minute. But we got to the hospital and then I started my induction. Oh my gosh, those contractions were so bad. They gave me the little pill. I forgot what the heck it's called. But is it Pitocin? I don't know. But they gave me that, and I remember cramping so bad. Oh my God. gosh, it was like the worst pain ever. And I was like, I know they said it's worse than actual contractions, so these were pretty painful. And my blood pressure went back normal. I was calm when I went back to the hospital, but I remember staring at the monitor the whole time. I was watching the monitor, watching her heart. And then I remember they'd come in and I'd have to reposition this and that, because, you know, her heart rate would sometimes dip and everything like that. And that would freak me out. I couldn't sleep that night. I was up staring at the screen the whole time. And then I remember when I was like just tired of it and stuff, and they came in and they were like, okay, so we either can do this or you can go ahead and get a C-section, you know, it's up to you, blah, blah. I was never like forced into one. It was based off of my decision. I remember I was crying at first because I was like, oh, I don't want to have to get a C-section and all that, because like the thought of the surgery really like got to me, because it's such a major abdominal surgery. But then I finally was like, I'm not being selfish. This is not about me. This is about the baby. So I was like, go ahead and C-section her out. So I remember waiting for them to take me down for C-section, because they kept delaying and stuff, and said like, oh, you know, we had another emergency one, so I had to wait and stuff. And then I remember getting down there. Baby girl was strong, man. She was hitting that hitting the fetal monitor. It was so funny. Oh my gosh. I was like, this girl is strong. I was freaking out when they gave me my epidural and my spinal epidural. I was freaking out because I was like, I can't feel my legs. And they had to like calm me down, because I was so worked up. It was really bad. And they were like trying to talk to me like, it's okay, and you know, trying to tell me happy stories. I was awake still during the whole thing. So I remember hearing her cry as soon as they took her out, and I could see her through the plastic, and I was like crying. I was so excited to see her. And it was bad because it was good that we got her out when we did. I'm glad I didn't delay, because one, she ate her meconium, which is really bad, and two, she her sugar was super low. When they took her out, it was like 20s. So she had to be in the NICU for a while. And I was so happy I made the decision I did. I did not care about me. It was about her. And it was such a joyful moment. Like, my husband and I were so happy. She was so beautiful. She looks just like, I don't even know. She looks like her daddy to me, but it was such a beautiful moment and I loved it. So that's the backstory of why I had to have my first C-section. So it was due to the baby not more of an issue with me. So that's why it was okay for me to go ahead and try this VBAC. Let's talk about preparing for VBAC. So the first doctor I had, she was good. And then she was like to me, did you have a C-section? I was like, yeah. And she's like, unfortunately, like, we're gonna have to cut you open again. Like, we have to go with what you did, which is crazy because the place I was giving birth is the same hospital that I gave birth for my son. So I was confused, but I was like, okay, I'm gonna start looking elsewhere. So I did. I found on Reddit a doctor and they were saying that he was good. I know, like, I remember at first when I was like, I'm only having a woman, I'm not having any man, but because of the things like people were saying, I was like, okay, you know what? I don't care. I want to have my VBAC. I'm going to go ahead and give it a chance. He seemed good at first or whatever. You want to have a VBAC supportive doctor, not a VBAC tolerant doctor. I'd say my doctor was more tolerant, and I know C-sections make more money, but listen here. I'm not going to be forced into something if I absolutely don't have to. If there's nothing wrong with me medically, the baby's fine, NSTs, you're not going to come here and just cut me open. So his nurse practitioner, it's crazy. She was more VBAC supportive. She was really making sure that I can have every chance I can to have this VBAC. I loved her so much. I know due dates aren't accurate, but he was going to cut me open on 10/15 and my due date was 10/23. And I remember that when the 15th came and I was like, hey, I'm not going to do this. Like, I'll sign whatever I need to because I don't need to be cut open right now. Like, I don't have anything wrong medically. So I will go ahead and decline this and give myself more time to actually go into labor. Because, you know, I think with C-sections, they like to not schedule past 39, 40 weeks or whatever, because they said like higher chances of like your less success rate and all that stuff. So, you know, I was just like, you know what? I'm not gonna let that discourage me. I'm still gonna go ahead and give it a try. One thing about me for sure, I was a huge advocate for myself. You have to be. Like, don't ever feel pressured or make the doctor or someone feel like you have to have another C-section. As long as you and the baby are medically healthy, fine, do not feel entitled to do that. And it's crazy because I remember I was doing a lot of online research, a lot. I was always on Reddit and I was always online looking up stuff. And I've had people say they went up to like 42 weeks with doing a VBAC and stuff. So I was like, okay, so I'm not obligated to do this 39, 40 week or whatever. So another thing that can help you is having a birth plan. I personally did not have a birth plan, but I did know I wanted to have a VBAC. I didn't have any like birth plans or anything like that, but that is helpful, they said, to have, just to kind of know. As I said, like, birth plans will not, like, it won't always go the way you want. Sometimes, unfortunately, you know, things happen, things change. So don't knock yourself, you know, if it doesn't go the way that you want. And if you're always wanting to just find out information and stuff, you can always join a local group or get books or whatever you can to look up information and help guide you to that VBAC. One thing I definitely did though was drink pomegranate juice. Pomegranate juice is good for it's good for a lot of things with your pregnancy. They said especially it's good for your placenta with the baby and everything. So I was drinking that. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, I was drinking that pomegranate juice religiously. So if you have anybody negative or they're questioning why you want to do a vaginal and not just do another C-section stuff, push those people aside, because people like that, you don't need negative energy, you don't need negative Nancy's, you need positive people that are going to uplift you and help your mindset when it comes to having that VBAC. One thing about me is I watched a lot of success stories on YouTube, and look, here I am telling mine. I watched success stories, I read success stories on Reddit, and I was just online looking up positive things about VBACs. And that mindset is everything. My hubby too, he'd always tell me, you're going to get that vaginal birth. You're going to get it. You want stuff like that because that really helps you with pushing to get that. Otherwise, like, what your mind thinks can be an outcome. So you want to think positive. But let's talk about when my labor started for my second pregnancy. So I remember that day early in the morning, I had a doctor's appointment. I was like, oof, these are not Braxton hits. These are feeling a little bit harder for me to talk. I feel like contractions are starting. And I remember telling my husband, I was like, babe, I think I'm starting to get contractions, you know, because these are different. I have to hold the wall. Like, I can't just walk. It's not like Braxton Hicks. And then he was like, really? I was like, yeah, I think so. Going to the doctor, I went by myself. I don't know why I didn't have my husband come with me. I am crazy for that. But I remember getting there, and then I had the NST and the fetal monitor on my stomach, and he was like, oh, it doesn't look like you have any active contractions and blah blah blah, which is true. I might have not had the contractions that were like hardcore yet, so I understand that they might not have seen it on the monitor yet. Telling him like, okay, well, I know I want a membrane sweep at least, you know, just because, you know, you never know, that might help, you know, get them contractions really going. And because I had a membrane sweep 2 weeks prior, the midwife, that was awesome, she gave me one because she was like, I really want to like onset your what do you call it, your labor or whatever. And I remember I lost my mucus plug after she did it like 2 days after, and I was excited. I was like, oh, that means that, you know, the baby's coming. Little did I know that it can regenerate. And I was like, oh, this doesn't mean I'm gonna have my baby soon. My belly was so low, so I was like, okay, hopefully this comes soon. Anyways, so she was trying hard to get me going. But anyways, I got there and he was so negative. I was like so done with him. I didn't want anything to do with him. Telling him, hey, I want that membrane sweep, blah, blah, blah. And he was just not happy because I wasn't doing the C-section like he wanted me to do, talking about some crazy nonsense or whatever. When that appointment was done, I remember having to tell the girl that was in there, I was like, hey, is he gonna give me my membrane sweep? Because I asked for one and he like left and didn't even, and she was like, oh yeah, da, da, da. So then I went in, got my membrane sweep, and he was like, well, I don't know if this is gonna do anything, but it's worth a try. And I'm just looking at him like, I know it's gonna work because I was feeling contractions this morning, but I didn't even say anything to him. I was like, whatever. So then appointment was over, driving home, and I would be like, oh, like the contractions would hit me out of nowhere. I stopped for food on my way home, and I was like, how am I gonna tell my order if I'm feeling these contractions? Because I literally could not talk when these contractions would start. That's how I knew it was real, because I was like, ooh, I can't talk. Contractions would start and go, and his mom was here because she was supposed to be watching our daughter while I go in the hospital if I'm going into labor. I would just randomly stop and just be silent and do my breathing technique to kind of help me through the contractions. And you know, they were spaced apart, they weren't too close, so I was like, okay, I'm not there yet, but I'm getting there. Later on the night, probably like 9 at night, I was in the room and I had my counter for my contractions, and they were getting closer and closer, and I was like, ooh, you I don't know. And then I remember his mom coming, she was like, are you sure you don't want to go to the hospital? I think you guys should go, or at least wait in the parking lot or something, because like your contractions are getting closer. And I was like, no, I'm fine. I don't need to do that. Literally, I remember I was like, okay, sure, we'll go. I packed up and stuff, got in the car, we drove like 5 minutes down, and then I was like to my husband, oh, I don't think I'm having any more contractions, we can go back home. Good thing I didn't. Them contractions was every 5 minutes, going to 3 minutes while we were driving to the hospital. Every 5 minutes I was feeling contractions and I couldn't talk. And I'm like, good thing we went. So we got there, and I remember the nurse that was there, she was trying to like feel how many centimeters dilated I was. She couldn't figure out. She was like, I think it's a 2, I don't know. So then another nurse came in and she checked, and she's like, oh, you're 3 right now. We are getting, and they could see my contractions were getting closer and closer. So they're like, okay, we're sending you upstairs. So I get upstairs, everyone's introducing themselves. Hey, we're this and that, we're going to be doing this and that. Had the doctor come in, she checked me, 4 centimeters dilated. I was like, oh snap, I'm dilated even more now. This is crazy. And them contractions were so bad. Like, I salute all the women that did natural, no epidural or anything. I salute you guys. You guys are soldiers. Like, seriously. That, I was in so much pain. I said, give me whatever pain thing you got. Like, I was like, you know what? I can take something simple. I can tolerate pain. So I took fentanyl. That's what they gave me at first. 1, it made me feel loopy, and 2, it didn't do anything. I was like, oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. I'm feeling pressure. So I went in the bathroom. I had a bloody show, lost my mucus plug. It was a bloody mess in there. And I was like to my husband, oh my gosh, the pressure, I feel the pressure. And he's like, don't worry. He was helping me so much. Man, my husband, he is the best. He was helping me so much because I felt so much pressure. And then I remember the nurse was like, okay, well, you gotta get back in bed. Like, I was like, okay. The doctor came and she was like, okay, we can either give you an epidural where you can walk around, or the one that you have to stay in the bed. I was like, give me the strongest stuff. Give me the spinal. Let me stay in that bed. I don't care. But I was dilating so fast, I didn't really care about, at that moment, I didn't care about getting up. I was like, the way I'm hurting, all I want is pain relief. So then I had someone come in, they gave me the spinal. They're like, it might take 20 minutes before you start feeling pain relief. And I'm so happy it did not take 20 minutes because I was hurting so bad. It worked right away. Right away it worked. I was so happy. After that or whatever, I think like within an hour or 2, she came in again, checked me. I was 6 centimeters dilated. I was like, okay, things is moving. So I was happy. I wasn't feeling any more contractions, so I was just chilling. But I was so tired. Like, I didn't sleep that whole night, obviously, because 1, like the baby's heart rate, he didn't like certain positions, so I kept having to move. It was a stressful night. I had to go on the ball. I had to do a bunch of stuff just to make sure he was good. They checked me again, like not too long after. 8 centimeters dilated. I was like, what? Then like, you want us to break your water, or do you want it to break on its own? I was like, I'm gonna give it time. I'm gonna see if it'll break on its own. So then, things were going. I was moving around stuff. And then the nurse was like, I think I see meconium. Bruh, meconium doesn't like me or something. And I was like, what? So I was freaking out because I was like, I had an issue with meconium with my first child, and you're telling me meconium in this one? What the heck? So I was over here trying to stay calm because, I already had elevated everything because I was now freaking out about this, and I was trying to stay calm, and I was like, what? Meconium? Like, just thinking of it again made me worry because I was like, oh no. And she was like, it's okay, like, like trying to calm me down and stuff. And then I remember everything the baby was fine, they're still monitoring. And then they checked me again. I was still 8 centimeters dilated. Water has not broke. So they were like, we're going to break your water. So they broke my water, and that was that. And then literally after they broke my water, about an hour in, it was like 7:30 in the morning. And she was like, it's time for you to push. And I was like, what? And I was half asleep. Like, the epidural had me out and I was tired. So I remember them I pushed in a whole bunch of different positions. Then they finally had me on the back position. And even though I heard doing it on your knees is the best position, but finally they had me on my back and I started pushing. And they were like, I remember when they're like, push harder, you got this. And I had the best team. But you want to know the crazy part is? My doctor didn't deliver my baby. I was so happy. I don't care. It was the nurse practitioner or not the nurse practitioner. It was the midwife that delivered my baby with another doctor. I was so happy. You don't understand how happy I was to have her, because I feel like if it was my doctor, he would have tried a C-section. He wouldn't have tried as hard to make me push the baby out. He would have been like, oh, we're having a C-section. So I'm so happy it was her. Like, I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Pushing and pushing and pushing. And then I remember when they showed me the mirror, and I could see his head right there. And that was just more encouragement, even though I was half asleep. But I could see his head just sitting there. And I was like, oh my gosh. So then I was pushing, and they were like, push, push, push. And I was over there just pushing away. And he finally came out. And this is the part that got scary. He wasn't crying. And I was like, like, my husband, I remember my husband was recording the moment. And as soon as that, like, he came out and he was on my chest, I was way gone. I didn't even grasp what was going on because I was so out. And my husband stopped. You can see him like abruptly like stop recording because he was crying, like worried about what was happening. But they just not hit, but they pat his back a few times, and then he started crying and he was fine. But I'm not gonna lie, that was a very scary moment. I'm like, dang, both pregnancies I had some kind of scare, like what the heck. Overall, I would say it was a good experience, especially with having my husband by my side. And I had a great, wonderful team. All the nurses were great. The doctor was wonderful that came in, and the midwife, they were all so great. They knew how to work with me. They were making this VBAC happen. And they were not pressuring me or made me feel like, you know, a C-section is my only option now. You have to do a C-section. So I really thank them for that. And this hospital, both times C-section and VBAC, I had a great experience with them. So I am very grateful for that. As far as healing goes, for sure, the vaginal recovery was easier than my C-section. My C-section, I get keloid skin, unfortunately. So I did have like raised skin. And when I was pregnant again, that thing was raised. So that made me a little nervous because I know that's like thicker skin, and I know how that goes when you have to get cut open again. So that was another thing that was worrying me. But I love it because it's like a bikini line, so you can't even see it unless I'm wearing, you can't see it at all. It's basically covered. So I love that it's a little, cut little bikini line incision, so it's nothing crazy. But I was able to do more things earlier and not have to worry about the incision and stuff, because the recovery was easier for the VBAC. I would say another thing that helped me is I didn't tear at all. I remember bringing my own olive oil, and they were like, unfortunately, we can't use that. So, but they lubed me up really well. I know TMI, but they lubed me up really well. So that helped me. I only had some lacerations, but other than that, I didn't tear at all. So that was kind of nice too, because I know I've heard the horror stories after tearing, the horror stories of peeing and everything, and thank God it wasn't that. I know it can be different for every pregnancy, but I didn't have that, thankfully. I do thank God that I have a wonderful husband that was supportive throughout my pregnancy, through my VBAC, and just after, because there's so much emotions. Our hormones are all over the place, especially after having a child and throughout having a child. And I also lost my father in the midst of being pregnant towards the end. So it took a lot of him being there for me, because I couldn't hold it together when I lost my dad, because I was expecting him to see my baby and he looks just like him. So that even makes me I get emotional. So that makes me happy. I feel like he was a blessing in my life, because he looks like my dad. Things that he does reminds me of my dad. So it's so great. And I really wish he was here to see this pregnancy. So I'm happy that I have a spouse that was there to be there for me, because that was one of the hardest moments in my life. Being pregnant, trying to have this VBAC and stay positive, and then losing my dad was just horrible altogether. And lastly, I want to talk about some things I did to prep. I did eat dates, red raspberry leaf tea. I did the primrose oil vaginally. I did curbside walking. I did a lot of walking. I did exercises that I saw on YouTube. They said okra water. I tried okra water because they said it makes you slide out. That thing tastes so nasty. I did not do the okra water. I couldn't do the okra water. But those are just some things I did. I'm not sure if they helped or not, but I did them. They weren't gonna make me go past 41 weeks or something like that. But I was at 40 weeks and 4 days. He came exactly on the 23rd, the day that was anticipated versus the 10:15 that he was going to cut me open. And when I called him out and said, why are you cutting me open on the 15th if my due date is closer, 10:23, and he couldn't answer it. Like, you could tell he got caught off. That's why I'm saying to do your research and like look into things, because these doctors, based on his size and everything, it was 10:23 on the paper and stuff. So definitely do your due diligence, and if you feel uncomfortable with your doctor, change your provider right away. Find somebody that's going to listen to you, support you, and not make you brush things off when it comes to what you want to do. So that's going to sum up my story of my VBAC. If you have any questions or maybe your own VBAC story or want to know anything, just comment below. I'm here. I will be doing different videos on different things, so expect to see some more. And I hope you guys take care and have a wonderful day or night, whatever it is for you. Bye-bye.